Well, good. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here today. Giving our opening talk is the multi-hat wearing Josh Senften. Josh was born in Sarasota, Florida, and grew up along the Gulf Coast. He graduated from the University of Central Florida in 2014 with a bachelor's degree in music education. In 2016, he began practicing with the Orlando Zen Center and took the 5 precepts in 2018. Josh has worked as a professional musician for over 12 years, performing throughout Central Florida, the U.S., and the Caribbean. He currently tours with Cowboy Bebop Live, playing saxophone and clarinet. He also performs gigs at weddings across New England. He is currently a PZC resident, serving as a kitchen and garden master, and he took his 10 precepts this past Sunday and is now a Dharma teacher in training, so I have to update his profile. Yes, thank you, thank you. And answering questions today is Zen Master Tan Gong, José Ramírez, and Zen Master Tan Gong. Let's see. Oh, it moved. Zen Master Tan Gong is the co-guiding teacher of the Providence Zen Center and the guiding teacher of the Delaware Valley Zen Center, which he helped establish in 1999. He began studying Zen with Zen Master Dae Kwang at the Providence Zen Center in 94, received Inka in 09, and Dharma transmission from Zen Master Dae Kwang on April 1st, 2023. As an industrial statistician, he works with engineers and scientists to help them make sense of data. He lives in Rhode Island with his wife and daughter. So thank you both for appearing here. And for anybody that's new to us, during Q&A, please ask a question. It's very good odds that whatever your question is, somebody else in the room has it. So feel free to step up to the mic for questions. Thank you both.
Hi everyone. It's nice to see everyone here today. So yeah, I had the privilege of sitting the entire retreat we just had in the summer. At our temple we have 2 long retreats every year. One is in the winter and one is in the summer. In the summer we have it lasts 90 days. I think it's like 13 weeks. So it's very long. Very few people do the whole thing, but many people come for a week, maybe 2. And in the summer, we have 4 weeks that we do, 28 days. And there, people can come for as little as 3 days, so a lot of people come for just a little bit of the retreat. And then many people sit a little longer. Retreat is very an interesting experience. It's one of those things, like there's not many things in life where everything's set up for you. The whole schedule's set up for you. You don't really have to, if you learn the forms, you don't really have to think about anything. It's a lot like riding a bike. Like once you learn how to ride a bike, you can just ride the bike, you know? And Kyol Che retreat is a lot like a course on a bicycle. And once you learn the course, it's always the same course. So doing that sort of thing really gives you space to look at your mind and what's going on. It really frees you up from needing to think about things because it's already set in motion. You already know what's going to happen next. You just do it. So doing 4 weeks, I mean, I've done Kyol Che, I think, 4 years now, 4 times in a row, and this is the longest that I did. And it's a lot of time to sort of see your mind and what it makes. I had a teacher very many years in Florida that said, like, you see your bullshit enough appearing, and you kind of get a sense of what you're making. And that's a really valuable experience, I found. So many of you know from questions and talks I've given before that I've always kind of been an angry person. Anger is really natural, comes pretty quick and pretty right away. It's easy to feel that thing. To feel wronged and then just be angry, that happens like immediately for me. And so I had all this time to sit there with myself, and so I was like, all right, let's look at this. Have I always been this angry person. And with that much time, it's amazing what you remember about your life. Things I really didn't remember. When I was 5, my mom and I moved back down to Florida from Massachusetts. And I started kindergarten a little late compared to the other kids. So I was the new kid, even though everyone was 5 and just started school. So I got teased a lot. And I had my first parent-teacher conference with the vice principal, I think 2 months into that school, because I punched a girl in my class in the head, because I think she said mean things about me. I grew up with 2 cousins. They were just about 1.5 years older than me. And we were kind of like brothers. I mostly grew up with my grandparents. I never met my father. And my mom was around, but never really stable. So I had my grandparents as like a rock and a place to live and be. And my cousins would often come over, have sleepovers at my grandparents. I'd have sleepovers at my aunt's. We spent a lot of time together. And they loved wrestling and roughhousing. So they were always bigger than me, right? But I still tried to wrestle with them. And one of my cousins in particular, Doug, was very good at, prodding you, He could tease you. He knew exactly what to say to get you riled up. These people in your life, I'm sure. He knew right where it would sting. And I'd just get so angry. And I remember whenever the roughhousing would turn into like a real fight, I'd just start crying and shaking. And then I'd be so rage-filled that I'd just start like trying to throw punches. Imagine an 8-year-old crying and shaking, trying to throw punches. It doesn't work very well, and I got beat up a lot. I remember in 6th grade, I went to a Christian school. I grew up Baptist, and I think I brought home in one school year 3 black eyes. All fights I started, all kids bigger than me. And these were all things I didn't even remember about myself. It's funny what your brain does. But it was about that time I had a youth pastor at the church school I went to. And he gave me like the first kind of anger help I had. Taught me some breathing techniques, some things to kind of separate myself from the rage. And he taught me the art of walking away. I don't know why I've never been taught this, but yeah, even if you're going to get in trouble, but you're going to punch something, just walk away, separate yourself from that situation. And that sort of started saving me. By the time I got to high school, I had no more fights. I did all of high school without punching anything, which was a very big step forward. But this rage and anger wasn't really being dealt with or digested. It was just kind of being skirted. And a lot of people, that kind of builds up and builds up and builds up, and then something happens and they just explode, right? And I'm lucky that really wasn't me. That wasn't my style. It just sort of transformed into something else. So instead of punching things, I just remember. Someone made me angry, and I had a very good memory. I still do. But yeah, when I was 15, 16, I really remember, I started remembering everything. Like, oh no, he said this about that girl. And then he went and made out with that girl when he's in that relationship. He's not trustworthy. I was late to band class. He's just no good person. Yeah, I have all these ideas about people. And I really started holding them. And that kind of protected me, in a way. Like, I didn't get close to the people that I was going to punch, maybe. But it caused a lot of resentment that I really wasn't aware of. We have a pretty famous story in our tradition about a girl in ancient China named Sol. Sol was a young girl who lived with her father near a temple where Ma Zhou Zen Master lived and practiced. And Ma Zhou Zen Master is a great Zen Master, great teacher. And her father was a student, so they'd go up the hill. They lived very close to the temple, close enough to hear the temple bells. And he'd bring his daughter up to see the master, and he'd have an interview, and his daughter would come, and one day he's like, "You're a very good girl, soul, so I'm going to give you a gift. This gift is Kwansein Bosal. In our tradition, that's the name of a great bodhisattva, a great being of compassion, a being that dedicates its existence to staying in this world until every being is saved. Deep, compassionate being. So if you say this name over and over and over again, you'll get great happiness." And that's what he says to her. And she says, okay, so she starts chanting Kwansein Bosal all the time. She goes home, she chants it all the time. She does chores, she goes to school, she plays with her friends. All the time she starts to cultivate this in her mind. And one day she's out doing laundry. They had a river, and they had cloth, and they put it on rocks, and they beat it with a stick. And she's hitting the cloth with this piece of stick, and at the same time the temple bell rings, and she gets enlightened. She runs home to her father and tells him. A couple years later, the Zen Master, Ma Zhou, gives her transmission. She becomes a Zen Master. And the story goes that she lives a long life, marries, has many children, and helps many people. And then you don't hear about her until the end of her life, where she's a grandmother, and tragically one of her grandchildren passes. And at the funeral, she's openly weeping. And this kind of gives everyone a question. You know, she's supposed to have conquered life and death. She's supposed to have no hindrance. How is this a hindrance to her? And so they have a processional home, and then people come and offer their condolences at the bereaved's home, the tradition. And she's openly weeping at her home when everyone comes to visit. And finally someone gets the courage to say, "Ma'am, you know, I thought you had no hindrance. Well, why are you crying?" And she immediately stops crying and looks at them and says, "My tears are not for me. They're for my granddaughter. When she hears them, she will enter nirvana." Does anyone understand? No one understood. So I brought this book up to retreat. It's called Where's Your Master? It's by Zen Master Dae Kwang. He's our head teacher in Asia, and he spent many, many years here. I believe Abbott, many, many jobs in the Providence Zen Center. So a wonderful teacher, and Sunim. And I read that story in this book, and then I read what he said, and I'd like to read what he said about this story. Lately, I've been wondering about something they don't talk about in the story. What did she do in her life when she grew up? It just says she grew up, married, had a family, and many people came to her and found her very helpful. Then we have this story about when she's a grandmother. She's already enlightened, so I wonder what she did all the time. What was it like? How was it different from what I do or what other people do in their lives? Before moving to Cumberland, Rhode Island, the Providence Zen Center was in a house in Providence. Everybody had jobs taking care of the house, and the woman who was the housemaster did the laundry in a little room on the second floor. At that time, I was working as a welder in town. I was removed from my former social life, and in some ways, I felt very alone. I was really trying to push myself in practice. It was very hard for me to get up in the morning and stay alert. We'd read the chants. I couldn't even focus. I was very tired. There wasn't much chance to get involved in anything socially satisfying. I would come back to the Zen Center after work and run into the housemaster on the second floor. She would have just come home from her job and would be hanging out the Zen Center laundry. We would talk about something or other, and usually I would end up helping hang out the laundry. I remember a lot of people would end up there with their problems, their despair, their unhappiness, and everyone would get a certain amount of attention. Then they would end up hanging out the laundry and talking about something else. There was something very affecting and helpful about that experience for me. When I think about Soul, I imagine it was like that, just hanging out the laundry. She lived her life without any resentment. That's a very simple thing, but actually it's very rare for people to live their lives without a lot of resentment towards their relationships, their work, or society. So I read that and then went back to my cushion and sat for a few more hours. And I started thinking about my grandparents, particularly my grandpa. I grew up in a Christian home since 1978, my grandparents were conservative Christian people. My grandpa was an entrepreneur, owned a large school bus business that he started very small. And I tell you all this for some context. I went to college and stayed pretty close to with my grandparents. And then in 2015, a certain political candidate came into the sphere. And my grandparents were very excited, especially my grandpa. This was someone like he trusted, that was different, all the things he had been talking about for so many years. And I remember all the like, what would Jesus do pictures in the house. And like it didn't, like it, I couldn't see why they would support someone who was so un-Jesus-like, you know? That was my perception. And I let them know it, especially my grandpa. Long talks that would end up in arguments, that would end up kind of like, all right, well, I guess I'll talk to you later, you know? Because I didn't understand how Christian people could support this person. I had these ideas, and they made me angry. And I didn't know, I kind of learned not to act angry. I had learned to do this other thing. That was remember and then try to change the people I love to fit into this mold that was correct. It's a righteous anger I had. And so for like a year, I kept calling and talking about this thing. And we'd fight and argue, and then, all right, I'll see you later. And I'd come visit, and visit would be fine, and then the news would come on, and then we'd get talking, and then one of us would leave the room. Until like, yeah, about a year and a half in, I called, and he'd hear it was me, and he'd say, oh, here's Mom. And he'd pass the phone to my grandma. And I didn't know at the time, but that was the last couple of years I had with him. In 2018, he was 86, 87, and he died of natural causes. And we never repaired the relationship. That wasn't my correct relationship with him. You know, we could have put on Yankee Workshop like we used to and talk about rivets and wood. We could have, we both subscribed to Popular Mechanics for years. We could have just talked about something else, enjoyed his time together, you know? It wasn't my job to try and change him. An 80-something-year-old man, and I had just no idea about all these ideas, a mountain of ideas and conditioning that I had since I was 14 or 15 of this resentment and anger. And I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And without those 4 weeks up there, I wouldn't even have seen the mountain of conditioning. So I just ended the retreat so grateful. It's very difficult when you start, just like riding a bike on a BMX course. You fall down a lot. You hurt a lot. But man, it's so valuable to learn the course and do it and do it and do it and see what comes up. So, yeah, I had a great question now that really helps me. And it's sort of like a come on or a vow, but it's about a direction, I think. How do you live your life without resentment? How do you live your life without resentment? So since normally about this time we ask questions, I'll ask the first question. How do you live your life without resentment? And think about it, because I got to move the camera and do all this business here. So,
I need to thank you for your talk, for being so open with
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you so much. Yes. Yeah, that's what we do retreats. Yeah. It's very interesting. And thank you again for sharing with us what happens in a retreat. You know, some of us may have these ideas about spiritual practices that we're going to go there. You know, I joke about these sometimes. They're going to get invited, whatever, or maybe some relaxation, whatever it is. You know, we come to those places, these places, and go to retreats with ideas. Yeah. And retreats sometimes are okay. You know, you may have some type of experience. You may relax. You may, you know, enjoy nature, hear the bullfrogs at night, and you know, connect. Sometimes it's like nothing. But a lot of times it's quote unquote hard work. Hard work. Sometimes people ask, what do you get out of practice? You know, we do this all the time. You know, we say, breathe in, breathe out. What's on, what's off? You know, don't know. But what you get after a while is you get observation and digestion. Observation and digestion. He mentioned something very interesting. We, a lot of times, you know, don't like the forms, don't like the rituals, because we're free. We want to fight that. So when you come to a retreat for the first time and you have all these rules and all these things, but if you see them for what they are, they give you some freedom. Remember, he said, it's very rare in your life that everything is planned for you, that you don't have to worry about anything. You know, the moment you wake up, it's like, right, you know, what am I going to wear, what am I going to eat, what am I going to do today? If you have a free day, even though it's free, you have to plan where you're going to move, whatever, all that. But here, it's the same. Day after day after day, you get up, go to the bathroom, do your thing, and then go, bow, take a little break, go chant, sit, all that. It's the same. Every single day is the same. Even the food sometimes is the same. Every single day. Yeah? Oatmeal. But that gives you some freedom. You know, just step back. Okay, I don't have to worry about that. You know? In the temple rules, there's a little piece there that talks about inside work and outside work. Yeah? And this inside work is this retreat stuff, keeping a clear mind. So then you can see the stuff that starts appearing. You know. And with time, it's like Drano. You know. Starts bubbling up, and you see some of these. Yeah. You can see your life. You can see the mountain of ideas, and whatever it is. For some of us, it's resentment. For some other people, it's something else. But then you have the chance to digest that, because you have to sit with it. There's no place to go. Yeah? You can get mad, you can do all that, and, you know, not going to be too pleasant. But it's like when Josh met the junior pastor. Yeah? He mentioned breathing and the art. Notice he used the word art of walking away. Yeah? So we have that breathing part too. Yeah? There's something, I mention that all the time, there's something about breath, breathing. There is voluntary and involuntary. Most of the time it's involuntary. Yeah. So who's breathing? Until this moment you were not paying attention to that, until I mentioned it. And of course you think, I'm breathing, yeah, maybe. So when you see the retreat, you can see all this happening. And if you're honest with yourself, then you can see all this stuff. And you can see, use the word hold, you can see how we hold to ideas and stuff. And we can see how, you know, we don't have that clarity. Very simple. You heard this many, many, many times. Yeah. So living without resentment, that's tricky. It's hard. Yeah. Because we don't like stuff. You know, likes and dislikes. And if we like something, we want to run after it, you know, and hold on to it and don't let go. But the moment that goes away, we don't like it. And the stuff we don't like, we want it to go away as soon as possible. Yeah. So we have this attraction and aversion, attraction and aversion. Yeah. But if you see the retreat, you can see that, how that starts. I don't like Josh because, his stomach is like, wow, this is supposed to be a retreat, this is supposed to be peaceful. Whatever it is, man, oatmeal again. Or you can see your likes and dislikes. I like sweets. So retreat time, that peanut butter, that banana in the morning, man. But you don't see that until you have that opportunity. Yeah, some of you are laughing because it could be something else. But you get to see this attraction and aversion, Yeah. And then you can ask the question, can I have some type of enjoyment without, getting too attracted to that? And can I be, or can I be able to have some discomfort without generating a lot of aversion? Because from aversion, easily you can see that gets transformed into rage and hatred and all that. But everything started with a little aversion. I don't like it. And can grow. Yeah. And retreats are interesting because there's a lot of discomfort. All these things are, mentioned this many times, are spiritual and mental hacks, situations that are being created so that happens. You can digest your karma. Sometimes use the phrase burning your karma because sometimes you feel it. Yeah. But that's what we do day after day after day after day. Yeah. And that's the practice. Yeah, living without resentment, it's hard. So that's why we need some type of practice. It doesn't have to be Zen, but it needs to be something there. Maybe some people can do it just like that, Or even the lady in the story, she got that gift, Kwanzaa Bolsa. Yeah. And that's a gift, because that means you have something to hang on to, another mental hack, when thinking is darkness. As Zen Master Sun used to say, you can say Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, whatever you like. But if you know what you're doing at that, that's all that. And that's what we practice, and that's why we have these retreats, And that's why we encourage you to do it. Yeah. Most of you have done the meditation structure, if you have a regular practice, and that's what it gives you. The opportunity to observe things. Yeah. And then once you observe that, then you can see what we're holding, what we're attaching to. And then you understand that phrase that we use a lot too. Don't make, don't hold, and attach. Don't make, don't hold, and attach. We make a lot of ideas, a lot of things. And you can see that in that retreat. Starts with something. Next thing you know, you may be writing a paper. Whatever it is, writing a piece of music, a poem. Or, planning your revenge. Next time she talks to me like that. But it's just there, it's just ideas. You just see the retreat. Then, if you're a little humble, then you can smile and laugh. Look at that. Look at that. Here it comes again. Yeah, it's that simple, but one, we don't believe it, and two, it takes some effort. That's why in the Eightfold Path, one of the things there is this right effort. So if you pay attention to that recipe, effort is one of them. And don't take my word for it. Don't take the Buddha's word for it, or Josh's word for it. You have to try it and see. It takes some effort to do it. Maybe for some people, that's it, and everything disappears. But for a lot of us, it takes some effort, and that's why we practice. Again, Josh, thank you for giving us an insight of what a retreat is about. Any questions? Apart from that.
I think similar in line with what we're talking about. Lately, I'm finding it hard to I feel like it's that resentment, but it's for myself. When I make mistakes, I have a hard time letting go of those, especially when I have attachment to physical things. Like if I make a financial mistake, I get really upset with myself, and I lost that money, and I'm upset that I lost that money. Or if I lose one of my possessions that I really care about, I can't find it, and I get really upset with myself. Or just anything. If I don't have a good interaction with somebody, I have a very hard time letting go. And so I don't feel like I have a lot of resentment for other people, but it's almost for myself. And I wasn't thinking of it that way until you started talking about resentment. I was more just thinking about how do I let go, how do I forgive myself for mistakes that I'm making, and that's what I've been struggling with. And I guess my question is, what does practice teach us, and what can we do to be able to forgive ourselves for our mistakes and move on when we feel like we have done something wrong?
Yes, yeah. No, this is interesting because we talked about this a little before, in the sense of having some compassion for yourself too. Yeah, compassion for yourself too. So, in practice, you get to see that you're seeing it now, just by the comments. So, sitting in retreat with that, resentment for another person, resentment for yourself. Jesus was very clear on that too. He said, you got to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Yeah. So meaning in order to be able, according to Jesus' teaching, to love somebody or be compassionate to someone, has to start here. Yeah. And that also puts some burden on ourselves. If we want to be compassionate, then has to start with us. And some of us may have that personality that we want to be really perfect. Yeah. But then you can laugh about it. And then doing retreat too is you get into that too, because you're learning the forms and you make a lot of mistakes. Yeah. But the nice thing about the school is it's very relaxed. Yeah. You keep doing it and you learn the chants and you learn the forms and you trip and especially the formal meal. Man. Getting the balls together, touching and all that. Again, these are things to pay attention, okay? But in that paying attention is also paying attention to ourselves and how we react to situations. So part of it is, the form and stuff, but it's how we react to each situation, yeah? So a lot of this observation in retreats is to what we do, and that happens with time, It happens with time. So, it's paying attention to that. Yeah. And directing some of that compassion to yourself too. Yeah. So, but it's something that we forget. So, I'm smiling because the question was asked before and we talked about that. So, thank you. ¿Hay una demanda? No. Any other questions?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, if I were a new person who had never gone on retreat before, yet I'm having a little bit of anxiety about it, how can I feel comfortable going up into a retreat? Not even necessarily Kyol Che, but even a one day, and know that I'm not necessarily contained, and I don't have to kind of get all anxious about making the commitment to the day. I hear that, and it might be helpful for some to get some thoughts from you on that. Thank you.
So the question is a lot of times we may have some type of anxiety and reservations about doing a retreat, especially if you're new. What to do about it. Yeah. And you mentioned making the commitment to the day. So one of the things that we recommend to people is to do some practice first, to come to the sangha, come to a Sunday program like this, try the meditation, and then If you can do something by yourself, then do it. Start small. We always may have these ideas, oh, I'm going to sit for an hour. No, start small. 5 minutes, 10, yeah. But make the commitment, to that practice and try it. Try for a couple of months and see what happens. But do it, on a regular basis. And then pay attention to what happens. The first few days or maybe the first few weeks is great. But then it's like, I'm tired. I had a bad day yesterday. I'm hungry, whatever. But just do it. Don't check. Sansanim used to say that. Don't check. Because then you get to know yourself. Okay, this is me sad. This is me angry. This is me hungry. A lot of times we don't have a chance to do that. But you just sit. You're just going to sit for 10 minutes. That's it. And what you also tell people is, at the end of the 10 minutes, just get up. That's it. Even if you're in nirvana, because that's part of that training, Maybe just extend that to 15 minutes and all that. But it's very easy. Barry Briggs, Zen Master Dae, he has a little thing about, 9 minutes of practice. You recite the 4 great vows, you do this and that. It's great. It's just 9 minutes. We think we don't have time to do it. But we find time to eat, watch TV, check Facebook, Instagram, whatever. But there's some level of commitment that you have to do. Just give that a try. And after that, then start small too. Do a 1-day retreat. And there's a lot of trepidation and all that. But one of the things that you realize, if you do it, that at the end you're not the only one. And it feels very interesting to just show yourself that you can do it. And this is retreats, the style that we have, the Korean style, is more like a grandmother, very loose in a way. So, and we have many things, if you're sitting and you're in pain, you can just do a bow, stand up and keep your meditation, standing up. So we have all these things that were built in for that. But one of the things that is interesting for me that we have, I don't know if in other traditions they do this, but at the end of each retreat we have a circle talk. We have a circle talk. And everybody gets to share, if they want to, you don't have to, something about the retreat. And after all these years, always, gratitude appears. Which is interesting because we're hanging out with each other without talking, without, connecting in a normal way. But we're grateful that we have this place and the people and the energy that was there to support us, because probably it wasn't easy. And then you get to hear some of the experiences from people. I didn't think I could do it, but it's my first time. And then you can see the benefit of the sangha because we all go through that and they're all there to support you. It's a nice feeling. So I encourage people to try 1-day retreat and experience their circle talk. And then maybe it's not for you. This Zen practice, this style may not be for you. And that's fine. That's fine. I always tell people that, one of the things that is good about the West in this country is we have all these different traditions we're talking about. The Theravadas and the Tibetans and even Zen, you have different flavors, Japanese, Chinese, all that, you name it. And you can try all that, especially if you're young. I recommend it. But the moment you find something that resonates with you, then do it for a few months and see what happens. Otherwise, you'll be jumping and jumping and jumping, just like your mind. So at some point, there's a little bit of commitment that has to happen. But take advantage of the sangha. The sangha is a wonderful thing. So that's why we talk about the Buddha, the Dharma, and the sangha. And the sangha is a community that supports you. All of you that are here. So that's my suggestion. I would do it with time because I'm not.
5 more minutes.
Okay, good. More questions? So, as I was listening to your answer, I started thinking about the few times that I've encountered someone, never from the quantum school, but maybe from other lineage practices, where the person expressed such a strong desire to be in that retreat context. So taking a 10-day retreat, for example, and then immediately coming out and scheduling a next 10-day retreat in a repeated fashion, that led me to wonder whether it's ever a danger that people might become too enamored with the cushion, and what would be the mechanism in the quantum school. Maybe you never encountered that, but if you had, is there some mechanism or some techniques or directions that would be given to help a person in that sort of opposite situation?
Yeah, so the question relates to being, I like the word you use, enamor with practice. Yeah, enamor with practice. And that can happen because we can get attached to anything, even practice and even Zen. You know, sometimes Sansanim used to call that Zen sickness. You know, can get attached to the scriptures and all that. So yeah, I mean that's a possibility. I think things I can think of within our context is having sangha, okay? Community, people that can see that and can talk to you and be honest with yourself, with you, and be honest with them and say, hey, you're overdoing this, like any other friends, things. That's one thing. And the other one, if you have some type of relationship with a guiding teacher or guiding teachers, then they may see that, and then they should tell you that, in an interview. So one of the things that happens in the Zen tradition, in our tradition, when you sit retreat, or even when you come here sometimes in the week, we have interviews with teachers, or consulting interviews with senior Dharma teachers. And those are moments where you have this one-on-one and you can be open. You can ask questions like that. You can ask questions about your homework, And in those moments, you can see that, and even some koans are like that, There's this story about, I think it's Majo 2 or Matsu, where there's this monkey, he's sitting in meditation. Not talking to anybody, not interacting with anybody, it's just sitting, don't bother me. And then the teacher goes, grabs a piece of clay, you heard the story, a brick, and it starts going like this. Probably doing it really loud. Of course, the monk is like, but there's a breaking point. And the monk says, oh, what are you trying to do there? All that noise. Oh. And polishing this brick. And why are you doing that? Oh, I'm trying to make a mirror. And the monk said, well, that's really stupid. You cannot make a mirror out of polishing a brick. And of course, in the nice Zen story, the master tells the student, well, you cannot become a Buddha by just sitting meditation. So that's that idea. So that happens too. It's not unique to this century. So that story can also help. So all these stories are these interactions that sometimes you can see yourself. After a while, you can see yourself. One of the things I mentioned is that out of this don't know, two byproducts that I think are important, at least to me, is honesty with yourself and humility. Okay? It's hard to find people that are honest, but it's even harder to find people that are honest with themselves. It's very honest. It's very hard to be honest with yourself. And then some humility. This is hard. This is hard. I'm making mistakes. This is hard. I'm going to try 10,000 years nonstop. Yeah. But it's that attitude. So if you have that attitude, then, it's a little easier to work with yourself. It's okay. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. It's very interesting. That can happen. We can get so attached to anything. Yeah. The same happened, just thinking of another story when the sixth ancestor went on. He got transmission. He got the robe and all that. And the fifth ancestor told him, well, you better run because people are not going to be happy that you got it. And there was a monk there that was a general, and he chased him. He tried to hide until the guy got in there, And he just put the ball, the robe, and stick there, And the story goes that the guy couldn't pick it up, But at that moment, he really realized that he was attached to the ball and all that as the symbol, And he was humble and bow and say, I'm sorry, I didn't come here for the ball and the robe, I just came for the Dharma. And the sixth ancestor gave him some teaching. So, sorry. All these stories keep coming up related to that. And that's another thing that, in the tradition, there's so many stories, so many things that, that you can find something that, interesting, that moment that you can grab. And those become the koans that, sit with them. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming. Thank you all for being a sangha. May you all be happy. May you all be free from suffering. And that the wisdom resulting from your practice allows you to see the whole human race as a single body and the whole world as a single family.
Thank you very much for your talks. Just a few announcements. Speaking of interviews, we are going to have online interviews with Zen Master Tan Gong on Tuesday night. You can join that on Zoom from our website. This afternoon, starting at 12, we're going to have art club. You can come even if you don't have anything to work on. Dime has all the art supplies, and can teach you how to do. She's a great artist, so I highly recommend it. It's in the pagoda.
Mention the art that's hanging there. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's going to be going down soon, so on your way out, check out the art that's hanging at the end of the hallway, of the front hallway. And there's also, I think, some art for sale at the gift shop. Another thing we have next Sunday, we're going to have short keto chanting with Danielle. I think is it going to be at 12:30, we said?
Yeah, after pizza.
Yeah, so we'll have pizza and then an hour of chanting. For anyone who is interested in that, you do have to chant if you're going to eat pizza. So.
Pizza and keto, only at Providence
Only
Zen
at
Center.
Providence Zen Center. Maybe that should be the name, Danielle. A couple of retreats that we have coming up. On September 6th and 7th is a YMJJ 2-day retreat, but you can sit one or both days. The nice thing about the YMJJs is that you get a chance to do bows, chanting, and the formal meals. If you've never done that before, that's a really interesting introduction to the forms that we do at Kyol Che and longer retreats. We're going to have a Zen in Motion retreat on October 4th, and that's going to be a less stringent retreat where we're moving our bodies a lot more. We're going to do some hiking outdoors, some yoga, etc. So that's something, if you're intimidated by the stricter sitting retreats, that's the one for you. Let's see. I don't want to say everything because there's always too much to say. So actually, I'm going to call out West Side Zen is something we don't talk about a lot, but it's actually led by a Dharma teacher in training, Mark Van Noppen, who has given Dharma Talks here before. Every Thursday night, he does it online and in Providence. So if getting here is harder for you, that might be a good way to practice. And gift shop will be open. And we actually have that book that Josh mentioned. I think it's on sale because we've got a lot of those books in stock. So if you want to read it, was it who? Yeah. So Josh recommends that book. Thank you very much.
And we have summer work day next Saturday. Anybody who wants to come and help, we have some outdoor projects that we need some physical labor, some muscle. So if anybody's interested, next Saturday we'll be here at 9 a.m.
Yeah, for those of you online, Sangha work day next Saturday. I saw Richard head out there.
Hey guys, signing off. Have a good day. Thanks for being here.
So, Eva, you have something?
Thank you for joining us for the Providence Zen Center live stream. We'll see you next Sunday for another Zoom and YouTube stream at 10:45 for the Dharma Talk. Thank you.